Justin Trudeau's backdoor gun registry. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. I hate being right on this. I hate being able to say, I told you so, but I did tell you so. Justin Trudeau and his Liberals are bringing in a gun registry by another name. We now have details on how this is going to happen. Now, Trudeau's supporters will say, no, he personally promised, and it's in the platform, they wouldn't bring back a long gun registry. Well, there were lots of things about guns in the platform, and that's why I was warning you back in 2015 that this was coming. So let's look at his promise on the long gun registry, his other promises, and what's come out now in the Canada Gazette all about the UN arms marking system. Let's go back to the platform 2015. It says in black and white, we will not create a new national long gun registry to replace the one that has been dismantled. Pretty cut and dry, except those can be used by lawyers, and there's lots of lawyers in politics all the time, to say, well, we won't create a national long gun registry to replace the one that's been dismantled. Doesn't mean they're not going to have a registry by any other name. As Shakespeare said, it would still smell just as sweet, or perhaps as bad. What else is in the platform that led me to think they would do what they're about to do? This. They promised to immediately implement the imported gun marking regulations that have been repeatedly delayed by Stephen Harper. They also said they would require firearms vendors to keep records of all firearms inventory and sales to assist police in investigating firearms trafficking and other gun crimes. How do you have a record of every sale and who bought it if there isn't some sort of registry? This is being sold as being able to track every gun to help in police investigations, but really, is your 30-30 going to be used in a bank robbery? Probably not. Those are different types of firearms, mostly smuggled into the country firearms that are being used by the gangbangers and the criminals. They're not the hunting and sport shooting rifles that most Canadians are using. Doesn't matter. Let me show you what is now in the Canada Gazette. The firearms marking regulations from the UN that they promised to implement immediately, that's been put off to December 1st, 2018. Now, I was hopeful at the time that maybe this was just a show of common sense. Unfortunately not. It's so that they have more time to come out with better regulations. And it says right in the Gazette why they want to do this. Firearms tracing is a best practice undertaken at the outset of an investigation. Tracing is the systematic tracking of the history of recovered or seized firearms from the point of manufacture or importation through the supply chain until they become illicit. Well, that means that they're going to have to be able to find out that you owned it. If they know that you own it, that means they've got a registry of some kind. There is no other way to do it. Further down in their explanation for what they're doing is this long quote. Please bear with me on this. With tracing, firearms are matched to existing records. However, the utility of the existing regulations is diminished by the destruction of the long gun registry, i.e. the destruction of approximately 90% of records for firearms in Canada, and the absence of business record-keeping requirements, since the efficiencies of tracing are realized when a record of the most recent legal owner can be linked to a specific combination of information, serial number, name of manufacturer, etc., which is marked on the firearm. The firearms marking regulations from the UN are supposed to be about making sure that warlords and terrorists aren't buying guns. That's the false premise that's going to be out there, and it's going to drive up the cost. We've talked about this because every firearm imported into Canada, which is most of them, is going to have to be stamped once it's here with an extra serial number. They already have serial numbers. This could already be done, but they want to add costs, make it less efficient, less affordable for you to own a firearm. So that's step one. But then they're going to use that information to trace every firearm in the country. What would we call that? We'd call that a registry. How can they do the tracing without having a registry of every firearm and who owns it? I promised you in 2015 that if the Liberals were elected, they would try this despite whatever they claimed otherwise. This is a backdoor gun registry. They're going to force firearms vendors to keep book records of every sale, who owns it, where it's going. They will eventually creep into a full-on registry. Justin Trudeau and the Liberals can't be trusted on firearms. And in the last election, an awful lot of people just didn't think Stephen Harper and the Conservatives had done enough for them. How do you feel about that now? Do you miss them yet? Because you will soon. If you like the Rebel video you just watched, make sure you never miss another one. Again, click here to subscribe.